Microsoft and Xbox. A history of failure and lethargy, a failure of leadership, and an epitome for clueless, brainless executives that never seem to learn. And now it's time to face Karmic Justice and pay the piper. And you better face the music and pay the bills, or the great rage of the Sharma will get you. We all know that Microsoft sucks pretty badly. I mean, have you looked at your PC recently? It's basically a never-ending fight to try and shut down Microsoft's spying attempts, getting rid of Cortana or other nonsense features, or not having an update brick your PC, and dealing with AI vibe-coded garbage. And oh yeah, the whole AI and shitification comes to mind as well. Listen, on the topic of AI, maybe I have to do a video at some point in time, but I'm not opposed to the use of AI for funny meme purposes. I think this way it's one of the best highlights of AI, you know, ridiculing, absurdity, fun, just kind of fucking around with it. It seems like a lot of this has declined as well due to the honestly understandable AI hate growing everywhere, but I think the reason why all of the AI and shitification is not going to work out is because, not just because it steals jobs or makes shitty art and music, not just that, it's because not enough normal people actually use the tool in a way where it would actually pay off for all of the investment that is currently happening. Outside of the corporate field and the corporate work area, AI is not being used as a tool for it to be worth all the money and effort. Most people kind of ask Grok if this is true, or they ask Gemini to find them something on the internet. You know, stuff they could have done before AI existed and stuff they honestly could have done with chatbots before. Nobody really also uses Copilot privately or wants to use Copilot privately, or, you know, wants to pay money to use Copilot. These are gimmicks for the most part, but the few AIs that will for sure be left after the Great Reset will be things like Gemini or Copilot, you know, things attached to companies literally too big to fail. So I guess Copilot is gonna stick around whether or not the crash happens. You know, maybe Amazon's AI too, but the first topic might actually be one of the reasons, you know, AI, why it's going downhill at Xbox. Now this is more of a conspiracy theory, although I've seen and read articles that share the same opinion. But, you know, with how much money is being pumped into AI at Microsoft and how little effort and care there always was for Xbox ever since the new CEO took over even more so, I believe this aspect does play a role. It is very easy to save some money in a non-critical business area at Microsoft, and Xbox isn't a business critical area as it seems, because they haven't cared about games and Xbox in a long time, or at least the parent company hasn't really given a shit about where Xbox is going. And so many of this is kind of just a scheme to reduce the burden on the company by getting rid of a bunch of branches that were never too successful to begin with. And yes, as opposed to the Sony video, there is actually a little bit of research in here, a few numbers, a little bit of background, little bit of Microsoft's and Xbox's history, so maybe there's something interesting even to learn from this video. So yes, Microsoft has historically lagged behind other consoles. I find the console war itself hilariously senseless, and the whole exclusivity debate is kind of a waste of time. But in this case, yes, at least from a market standpoint, Microsoft and Xbox have often not really competed on the same level as Nintendo and Sony. And I personally thought, hey, that's because Microsoft maybe they don't even have to do that because the company is so much bigger than Sony and Nintendo in so many other aspects of the market. Well, it turns out that might have been the case at some point in time, but now someone is cleaning house over there. And, you know, now more and more layoffs are happening. Studios get slashed and people let go. And unfortunately, of the people letting go, none of them are Halo Studios, because they have to make remaster cash cows for Microsoft real quick, which is unfortunate because the studios that were let go were actually maybe capable of putting out a quality product. Not Halo Studios though. By the way, a lot of this is still also fallout of the COVID hiring craze. And honestly, even back then, you didn't really need to be Houdini to prophesy an incredible decline of this gaming craze. But I guess Microsoft and all of the other corporates at the time were hoping that we would kind of stay in containment forever. I mean, hey, Hey, they would have loved that idea for us to stay inside all day forever and them just being able to sell slop to us, but it didn't turn out to be that way. All of this is kind of a sign of the decline in gaming as well and the accelerating death spiral of the games industry, or rather the tech industry. And I, for one, just as with Sony, I welcome the decline and the downfall. I think it is well earned. It was high time someone pressed the red button. Both Sony and Microsoft are shitty companies that I honestly don't even want to sell or buy games. I don't want them to develop video games and sell them to me, and I really don't want to buy it from them. Overall, console hardware sales from Xbox are down by 27%. That is just a number I pulled from 2025. Articles from November. So 2026 is even worse now. I just want to put this into perspective that it's not just this year, and these layoffs are not suddenly or unexpected. In fact, we had multiple layoffs even last year, and multiple missed goals and financial struggles even in the last 5 years as well. This isn't something that just happened out of nowhere. 2026 is just extremely bad in comparison. But if you find back in time, you find article after article talking about the constant decline of Xbox and the constant lack of care of Microsoft for their gaming branch. They were always kind of floundering. Xbox has been losing revenue at 2% intervals year over year, even during the times of Game Pass and even during high points in the console war, and even when Xbox was doing quote-unquote good for themselves. So yeah, they were always trending downward and they were always kind of losing money for Microsoft. Now Xbox themselves, the Xbox sales dropped by 70%. 70% even compared to other consoles where we also saw big drops, but not as big as 70%. So Xbox is still a mile away from any competitor in terms of devastating market impact. Oh, by the way, do you know that if a company doesn't feel good about their sales or their product, they will stop reporting on it? When do you think Xbox stopped reporting their console sales? 2020, 2023, 2019 maybe? Nope, they started 2015. Yep, that is already when they stopped putting out numbers. Hey, the decline probably started even earlier, you know? Xbox just stopped publicly posting the console sales starting in 2015 out of sheer embarrassment, but you know, the downturn probably started before that. Despite all of this, our beloved Phil Spencer in 2023 was still telling us all will be fine, and Microsoft is not worried about them lagging behind, as they never wanted to outsell Sony or Nintendo in the first place, which is a really great quote, and probably not an argument that your shareholders want to hear, but you know, maybe Microsoft didn't care at that point in time. But we know that this mindset, if this was shared in the company, didn't turn out to be the winning strategy in the end. And the next Xbox is supposedly supposed to act like a PC, which they were always supposed to be like PC. I don't really get that argument. This is another Phil Spencer, I don't know, Phil Spencer hallucination, because even in very, very old articles that I could find talking about the early Xbox versions, they were described as home PCs or consoles that act closer to a PC, because they were always supposed to be, you know, maybe compatible with Microsoft's other products, because it just makes sense. So what is that supposed to mean? The next Xbox is acting even more like a PC. Is it just going to be a small PC or what? This just tells you that, you know, Phil, man, what was this guy even doing? Phil, what is this supposed to mean? You think that we'll get that mythical PC like Xbox and then everything is going to be fine? By the way, do you think this new PC Xbox is still going to launch with the new CEO? I think not. Let's not forget about gaming in the cloud and the push for it. Yes, gaming in the cloud. I love gaming in the cloud. Forget about even owning the console hardware. It's just gonna be a secondary modem that connects to Microsoft servers and streams games. That's gonna be the new Xbox if we continue down that road. We all love cloud gaming. I mean, no one is going to be able to afford a new Xbox, so might as well switch to all cloud gaming. You will own absolutely nothing, not even the controller in your hand. At some point in time, the new controllers will just be temporarily beamed into your hand as hard light constructs for $5 per hour or something like this. Game Pass will save us. We will all be cloud gaming on Game Pass in 5 years, even though they keep raising the prices since it obviously doesn't seem to be bringing in the revenue they expected. Maybe add another tier to Game Pass, you know, super deluxe, extra premium tier, and then another tier down for the poor plebs with 200% more ads in your games? That's probably a good idea. And let's not forget about Activision, Blizzard, ZeniMax, Obsidian, and all of the other studios Xbox has splooged on in the past. Maybe the investment there is coming to bite them in the ass now. I mean, Bethesda hasn't done anything good since they were acquired by Microsoft. Obsidian is, well, from the perspective of Microsoft, they're not doing great. And Blizzard is kinda just Blizzard, yeah. It doesn't look like these seemed to be great investments. I mean, it's not as bad as Sony buying Bungie for 3.9 billion, but still, I would hazard a guess the investment in these studios has not paid off in the eyes of whoever makes these decisions. Thus, the reason why they are shutting studios down and firing 3,000 people maybe is because, you know, their flagship titles aren't selling. Their flagship studios aren't doing the things that they hoped they were doing, which isn't even the first time Microsoft has laid off a bunch of people. In January 2025, they laid off about 9% of their gaming division. Some more in May, some more in July, and then they yeeted another 650 people in September of the same year, all 2025. Let's not forget that. Also apparently setting 30% profit margins, 30%, where other gaming companies usually set like 17%. That also might not have been such a great idea for the gaming division, you know, setting unrealistic goals. Now, Xbox invested 20 billion over 5 years into the gaming division. All the while, their revenue shrank down by $500 million. And the recent 7% drop by March to a quarterly earning of just 5 billion with 33% less hardware sales. That's the 2026 number. And would you look at that? The staff reductions come at the same time, coincidence, where a 90% additional surge in AI investment happens at the company. What did I say? It might just be a conspiracy theory, but you know how conspiracies work. They're just ahead of the curve, so to say. By the way, if you think Xbox isn't doing anything funny with physical discs, you would be wrong. Microsoft too is fucking around and thinking about the end of physical media. I mean, with the whole cloud gaming craze and the AI push, it was obvious that they would go down the same route. So the idea that Microsoft floated a bunch of times is that you would still have a disc. This is pretty old news at this point. You know, you would still have a disc, but the disc would kind of exist to verify ownership of the game, as in the disc is your physical license key. The rest comes from the servers, as in files and patches. And that means selling a game would sell the license key to another person. Seems logical, but and let's be honest, what's the point of all of this if it doesn't do anything to strengthen ownership and you still don't own anything? So what's the point of having a useless physical key, because you still don't own shit if you need an online activation and you need to always be online. As long as the DRM is in there, it doesn't matter if you have physical discs. You still need to verify your games online on the disc. The disc itself is worthless unless you know you want to put it somewhere and then it looks kind of nice, but without an Xbox account and internet access, you can't do anything with that license key. Also, and that is something I forgot to mention in the Sony video, the loss of physical media means a disk drive will obviously be missing in newer consoles, so goodbye to any kind of hardware compatibility. No more playing old games and so on and so forth, unless you still have your old consoles. So you better make sure you preserve your old consoles at home if you still have them. They are going to be so much more valuable. Actually, I imagine this is going to be crazy valuable. Having old consoles with working disk drives they are going to explode in prices. I mean, maybe people aren't even going to sell them anymore if you're actually interested in playing games. Old games, that is. Also, good job on Sharma, the new Xbox CEO, for doing things in a completely contradictory opposite way. Usually, especially as a new CEO, you know, you start off with the negative stuff and then you try to build from there. You know, you try to build from the lowest point, positive reassurance, and she started off kind of positive, if you care about Xbox, I guess, with some success stories, you know, Forza Horizon 6 sales and a few other things, you know, even though people were skeptical of her not having any gaming credentials, but she started off positively and then she cut 3,000 jobs. Usually in the business, you would do it differently. Not that she gives a shit. I imagine, you know, she doesn't give a shit about her reputation all too much. She only kind of cares about, you know, Microsoft's revenue, which is very apparent. Sharma seems to be, or at least have, a weird startup mentality about Xbox as well, which, I mean, that's what you get when you hire a CEO that is one of those people and has never seen or touched a game and is very obviously a completely business-minded person. I mean, that Sharma is completely just a business person, and I won't make any other comments, but I mean, did you expect anything else than a downward trend for Xbox as kind of a soulful gaming company when she joined up? Did you expect it to go in a less corporate or more corporate way under this executive? I mean, 1 + 1 is 2, you know, but you know, let's move on. Reactivism, speed-focused decisions with no regards for the development studios and only listening to the corporate consultants and investor calls. That is apparently the strategy going forward. So under her leadership, you can expect more drive-through gaming type releases, or what did Bungie say? The train station approach, I would say. It's just going to be less soul, more AI, more mass-produced factory garbage, and more slop. You know, as expected from a CEO like that, and just as Microslop envisioned. Maybe they should have bought Bungie in the first place. I mean, it seems that business approach is kind of the same thing that Bungie was doing, so they fit like a glove. I also love the discrepancy between what the studios were thinking. You know, Obsidian thought they kind of had a good year, and most of the other studios were thinking, hey, this is going pretty well, you know, Forza Horizon sales, okay, looks good, and so on and so forth. But psych, Sharma didn't think you guys had a good year, and now you all get to walk out of the door. It do be like that though, you know? It seems like Microsoft only looked at Call of Duty's shitty performance and went, you know what? Let's fuck over all of the other studios for the shortcoming of our big flagship title. What's gonna happen if Halo CE Remaster doesn't sell well? One can only speculate what will happen then. Will Halo Studios, I mean 343 Industries in disguise, finally be closed down, or will other studios be put on the chopping block in order for 343 to be saved and churn out more uninspired trash remasters for the next few years? I don't know. Man, Halo 6 really put a dent in the companies and the dev studios' confidence in new Halo titles, right? Like, I guess get ready for Halo 2 remaster, and Halo 3 remaster, and Halo 4 remaster, and so on and so forth at this point. And that also means getting rid of all of the small studios that literally didn't do anything wrong. Like, they literally didn't do nothing. So it's kind of just a short-term money-saving effort, because getting rid of salaries is the easiest way to make or save money and present this positively to any potential investor. But it won't change the fact that Activision is shit, Blizzard is shit, Halo Studios, I mean 343 is shit, and well, you know, these companies never learn, so the small studios will continue to suffer because the big studios don't do their job. And that means 343 will continue on making garbage. Well, let's just see how the Halo remaster turns out. Well, you know, it might be good, it might not be. No, dude, I have no confidence in the remaster. I can't wait to trash this garbage pile when it releases. I can't. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe Halo remaster number 3 is going to be really good in Unreal Engine 5. It's going to be super cool and good, guys. Like, come on, this is 343 Industries masquerading as Halo Studios. It's literally the freaking Scooby-Doo meme. Come on, they can't make good games for the life of them. They never were able to. It's just going to suck. It's going to suck so bad. And also, do you think that the new Gears of War is going to sell Xbox consoles? Really? I don't think so. I doubt that. Just as much as I doubt the Halo remaster. You do have to just kind of look at the numbers. From a market cap of 4 trillion to only 2.75 trillion in like a year. That's like a historic decline. It makes sense why the new CEO is slashing jobs left and right. They literally cannot go on like that. Doesn't change the fact that the company is still shit though, but you know, at least the numbers don't lie. I mean, you could have seen the writing on the wall before the $1 trillion loss in market cap. Xbox accountability margins are just 3%. Every $100 in revenue, $97 just go right back out of the door. That is insanely shitty, even for a company like Microsoft. And then juxtaposing this against the rise in their AI investment really puts into perspective as to why the gaming division is being devastated by firings and all of the other crap. It's just not profitable for Microsoft while the company spends untold sums of money to push garbage Copilot slop onto everyone. Oh yeah, and also apparently a bunch of Microsoft AI guys were moved into the gaming division, yes, into leadership roles, so have fun dealing with those ramifications from now on. Really cool. Thank you, Microsoft. In general, Microsoft as a whole is projected to fire at least 200,000 people this year alone, so it's not going to be over anytime soon. It isn't just emblematic of the AI blunder and the decline of the gaming industry, it's also a decline of the whole tech industry as an entire conglomerate. But let's just blow more hot air into the AI bubble while we're at it. I mean, let's be honest, most of the ramifications, and the price, we will have to pay in the end. And we will have to deal with all of the fallout for years to come. Not like any of the corpo CEOs care about this, they have golden parachutes ready at any point in time. And if you liked Spencer, by the way, maybe rethink that notion. That guy was given a trophy for laying off people in December 22, 2025. Now, of course, the trophy wasn't given to him directly for layoffs, but just think about the tasteless feeling that this evokes in people, where you will let go of the company, then your big boss gets a reward, a trophy at an awards show for leading Xbox so well. The Industry Icon Award for a guy that laid off a bunch of people in 2025. So does that mean that Sharma is going to get 2 Industry Icon Awards, or maybe they directly go for the Nobel Peace Prize this time? Apparently Xbox's decline, kind of, if you ask around, began in 2017 with, the Red Ring of Death fiasco, and ever since then the company has kind of sat on the fact that it's an appendix to Microsoft, and Microsoft has always had literal fuck you money. But if the parent company blows through money in an attempt to trend chase AI innovation, it turns out even a company with fuck you money can run out of patience with a subsidiary and then hire an Indian to clean house and inshitify the company some more. Get ready for more decline, more layoffs, higher prices, less service quality, and more online and more AI. Let's be honest, the gaming landscape has changed as a whole, from works of arts to cynical consumer product Skinner boxes filled with dark pattern decisions to milk the absolute piss out of your wallet and keep you playing for no reason other than to keep you playing. In a cynical, untrue, false industry like that, eventually apathy would have set in anyway, and the result we are seeing now is an effect of this Skinner box design for games that came with the commercialization and normalization and mainstreaming of a geek and a nerd hobby that would have made you an outsider just a few years ago. Nowadays, everyone is some sort of gamer, and games are all just cynical consumer products with very, very few exceptions that are still primarily works of art. And the decline in talent and skill, as well as the decline of engine diversity, has done more and more and more harm to the overall enjoyment of this hobby. Now, take price hikes, economical downturn, AI enshittification, and the ever-present idiotic approach to game publishing by clueless CEOs and investors into account, and it ends up totally making sense why Xbox is bleeding jobs and money. Mainstreaming AAA gaming is dying, and I think at least that is a good thing. As stated in the other video, the change is gonna hurt, it's gonna get really bad first, but eventually we will win, because without consumers, what are you gonna sell as a company? And at this rate, Xbox and Sony are doing a really good job at destroying their consumer bases by outpricing them and ruining the little bit of enjoyment that owning a console and gaming hardware brought to the table. Nintendo is following in these footsteps too. Every tech company actually is just enshittifying everything about their product that they're selling. I think it's only a matter of time until we see a really, really dark turn. It's gonna happen first. It needs to happen first, unfortunately. It's always darkest before dawn, or whatever cringe saying you want to apply here. Just try to sit it out. You know what to do. Boycott, pirate, and save money at every opportunity. Don't give these companies an inch, because they are trying to rip your arm off. and try to contribute wherever you can. You know, if there's a genuine pro-consumer activist group, maybe consider joining or donating. You don't have to drive and fly to rallies and protests, although that is a good thing. You know, just show financial support or signal boost these people and these movements. Support Ross and stop killing games. Maybe join up with Louis Rossmann, just to name a few people. There is resources out there to fight back, to show the industry what for. But the most important part is, take your agency back and stop giving them money and show them that they can put their enshittification up where the sun don't shine. And that's it for me, kind of, for the Xbox rant. Maybe I'll talk about Nintendo, but I was never close to that company, never really played a Nintendo game, never owned a Nintendo console. I might not be the right guy for that. But there is another, you know, some sort of amphibian out there that might have better input on the matter. Are amphibians also kind of just honorary reptilians? Maybe. He's a scaly for sure, so maybe watch that guy. Anyway, I'm done here. See you next time.